So iDESIGN Solutions, we're an educational reseller. We've been in business for 20 years. So basically we scour the globe looking for great products, things like VEX robotics, microbits, 3D printers, laser cutters, etc. And then we also do support for a lot of these products as well as training. So tonight's agenda is really easy. We're just going to go over a few things about robotics, and then we're going to look at the different aspects of the VEX 123. I'm sure that all of you have had your fill of PowerPoints, as have I, so we've kept the slides to a minimum, and then I'll be diving into a live demo very shortly. So why do we teach robotics, and especially why are we teaching robotics at such a young age? Robotics and coding, really. And the reason is 65% of elementary students are going to end up in a career that has not yet been created or invented. So how do we prepare students for jobs that don't even exist? And we do that by teaching them 21st century skills. And it's really easy to teach them these skills using VEX Robotics. VEX Robotics does have a complete K to college university product lineup. The VEX 123 is the cornerstone of it. So again, kindergarten to grade 3. We use these grades rather loosely because we do have students that haven't seen any coding in grade 9, and we have students that have been coding since kindergarten or grade 1. So this is just a recommendation of where the products fit, but we have seen them used all over in different areas. Today, we're going to talk about the VEX 123, which is part of the grant program, and it's a great way to introduce students to coding. There's 3 ways to use the VEX 123, or the puck, as I call it up here in Canada. And the easiest way is just right on the top of it. So if you take it and roll it across the surface, it wakes up, it powers on, and then we have buttons on top. We've got turn left, turn right, drive forward, play a sound, and then we've got the start button. So students can simply code right on top of it, hit the start button, and then the robot will do its thing. And if you want to start over with the new code, it's as easy as just shaking it and you start, and then it erases it, sorry. The second way we can do it is with the VEXcoder. So this is a physical coder. It's plastic, very durable, and the pieces of code are actually made of very durable plastic as well. So it's a great way to introduce students to block coding because they can simply slide the pieces of code into the coder and then hit the run button and watch their code work. So you will notice that it's not just drive forward, turn left, turn right. The robot does have an eye sensor and it also has a down sensor. So it does have the ability to drive until it sees an object, etc. Sorry. These are the VEXcoder commands. So as I mentioned, it's not just driving. We do have different events. It can do actions, it can do sound, it can do color, and we do get into some if statements. The third way we can use the VEX 123 is with VEXcode. So VEXcode is a coding platform that VEX uses it throughout its product lineup. So the idea is students as young as kindergarten, grade 1 are learning how to use VEXcode. And as they move through their schooling career and use VEX products, they're going to notice the interface never changes. It just gets more powerful. And it is based on Scratch, so that it's something that a lot of students and a lot of educators are already familiar with. To set the VEXcode is really, really easy. There is a little arrow on it, and it's just a matter of putting it right on the field tile with the arrow pointing the direction you want to go. Speaking of the field is fully configurable. So it's basically plastic tiles that snap together, and there are perimeter pieces that you can put on as well. And you don't have to make a simple square. As you can see, there are many different ways you can put it together and create different challenges. So now we are going to dive into the live demo. So just bear with me. I am going to change cameras. And here we go. So this is the VEX 123. Whoops, there we go. As I mentioned, it's just a nice little handheld puck. To get started, we just roll it across the field like that. You can see it light up. And just to show you the field's made of very durable plastic. And it easily snaps together. So we have these tiles that are 9 inches by 9 inches. We also have the edge pieces as you can see, and it's just a matter of taking them and putting them together in whatever configuration you want. They're nice and thick, nice and robust. They have rubber stoppers on the bottom so they don't slide around, and they can just be snapped together or popped apart for easy moving and storage. Once the fields are put together, they are very rigid, so it's just a matter of picking them up, moving them around, putting them in a closet, or whatever it is you need. So to get started with the VEX, we can see it's powered on, and it really is as simple. If I want to go forward, 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 then I'm going to turn right and go forward twice more and play a little sound. Now I line it up on my field with a little arrow facing the way I want to go. And there we go. And as you can see, they are very accurate. One of the things that teachers ask, is the repeatability. And because of the way it's designed and because of the small movements, it will do the same code over and over and over. I see we've got lots of questions in the chat. So the first thing I'm going to ask, Sarah, are there any questions that I need to answer before we go on?
I don't think so, but I will reiterate just some of the questions because normally you do answer them. Just so that everybody is aware. So one question is if it's web-based. So yes, the software is web-based. So you can use it on Chromebooks, MacBooks, Google, I forget all the different tablets, but all the tablets on the computer, it is web-based. So that's one question. The other one was if they run off batteries or if it's a power source. So for the robots themselves, they get plugged in. So Dean will show you a little later on how that looks.
I can do that right now.
Oh, perfect.
All right.
And
so
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
Yeah, all right. So they are USB-C, which is the new standard. So they are USB powered. They do have an internal rechargeable battery. So it is as simple as plugging them in. If you're getting the bundles like we're giving away in the grant, they're actually come with a charging case where you can snap all of these in and there's one USB cord to plug in and it will charge all of the robots. The coder, which we're going to get to next, does take 2 AAA batteries. When you buy the bundles, it comes with the batteries and the screwdriver, but they do recommend that you're going to need to change those batteries once a year.
And then the only other one was about the field, which you didn't mention the size of the field and the difference between VEXiQ.
Right. So the difference between this and the VEXiQ field is the actual size of the tiles. These tiles are 9" by 9", whereas the VEXiQ are 12 by 12. So they are not interchangeable, but you could certainly use the 1, 2, 3 robot on an IQ field. The only issue would be the IQ field doesn't have these nice squares. And the idea with these squares is you don't have to teach your students about units. They don't have to know centimeters or inches or millimeters. They simply can count. I want it to go 1, 2, 3 spaces, turn right and go 2 spaces, and they're able to easily code this robot so that it can get where they want it to go. So we have covered the 2D law that requires signed privacy agreement. The nice thing about VEX is that there is no sign up, there's no login, there's absolutely no place for the students to put any personal information in. It's just a website that they go to, so it does not have cloud save, but it does work very well. And we have not had any issues with any of the VEX software getting it approved by districts in Canada and the US. Great questions tonight. What's the battery life when charged? So that's another great question. According to VEX, it'll last all day. We're not quite sure what they think all day is, but you can definitely get through some good classes with it.
Then the last one there, Dean, is their code if they don't log in.
So yes, the code actually saves to the device they're working on. So I'm working on a Windows computer, it'll save into my downloads, but it just saves it generically because obviously there's no logins. On Chromebook or iPad, if you're fortunate, it'll save to the iCloud or right to their Google. So that does make it a lot easier. But yes, they can save it. And if they're working on a computer in your computer lab, as long as they go back to the same computer, or if they physically move the file into their Google Drive, they're good to go. How long should it be left on the charger before turning the power source off? Great question. It can be left on indefinitely. It is a smart charger. So I leave my robot, when I'm done tonight, I'll plug it in and leave it in all night. When it's done charging, the light changes from red to green, and it'll just sit there comfortably waiting for me to come back in the morning. All right, so next we're going to look at the coder. So this is the VEXcoder right here. The when start is one of the pieces of code that I just leave in, but it's basically plastic pieces of code. And as I showed you in the slides, there are a number of different pieces of code. And the one thing you'll notice is they do have writing on it, but they also all have symbols as well. So if the students aren't at a level of reading comprehension yet, they can simply look at these different symbols and know what each piece of code is going to do. So I'm just going to put together a quick code here, very similar to what we did with the first demo. I'm going to turn right so we don't run into the walls. Another drive. And then what we do once we've got our code ready is we make sure our robot's where we want it. Where's the best place for the coder? There we go. And I'm just going to hit the start button, which turned it on. I'm going to hit the start button again. Today is not my day. Bear with me for 1 sec. We are on. And there we go. So now you can see it actually lights up which piece of code it's running to give the students an idea of what's going. The other nice option we do have, I'm just going to reset the robot, is there's a step button as well. So students can actually step through their code one line at a time. So it'll highlight the one it's going to run next. So I can simply step through my code one piece at a time and see where something is not doing it the way I want it, and I know where I need to change my code. So the coder actually gets paired to the robot. So the one thing you will want to do if you have bundles of these is figure out a way to label the robot. The robot can be labeled with a label maker or a Sharpie, and then we've got to figure out a way to label these coders. I guess the big issue is that they are a black plastic, so a label maker would work great. A Sharpie, not so much. If they do get mixed up, it's not a big deal. It's very straightforward to be able to pair them, but it does obviously take a little bit of extra time. So any questions about the coder before we move on? How many fields? Okay, let me scroll up. We got lots of great questions here. All right. Is the coder connected via Bluetooth? Yes. Does each robot come with their own coder? Yes. How many fields are included in the grant? You will get 3 of these fields. So you'll have the option to put 3 separate fields together, or you can make one big field or one maze, whatever you choose. Any questions about the coder or how it works or the coding through it? All right, so now I'm just going to sit this down here and we're going to jump into how we code it using VEXcode. So once again, bear with me. I've got to share my screen. And this is VEXcode. You'll notice it's a website. It's code123.vex.com. So let me just get my chat box back up. I will throw it in there. Great question. Will it work if you put something on top of the field like sight words, multiplication questions? Yes, it will. So that is some of the VEX exercises where you can actually tape things on the field. Another thing we just found out is that you can use dry erase markers on this field. So you could actually write in the squares, write numbers, etc., and then be able to just wipe it out. Lego structures and put them on student. Yes, absolutely. That is actually one of the lessons, and I will jump to that in just a minute, Jenna. So I'll do the coding first, and then we'll jump back and take a look at the rest of the resources. So this is code VEX 123, and I'm just going to reset my robot because it's still connected to the coder. I've had enough technical difficulties to last a lifetime today. So how easy is it to get coding? It's really easy. It's just a matter of snapping these codes together, and 1 step equals 1 square. So if the students want to drive forward 3 squares, they can change that to 3. We can turn right for 90 degrees, drive forward again. And then I just need to start my robot up. I can pair it. And this is where you're going to see I've named this robot red 1, 2, 3. So if you're in a classroom, you're going to have a whole bunch of robots pop up. So this is going to be really important that the robots are labeled. VEX does have a really nice app that will work on your phone. And what you can do is you can manage all of the robots. So it'll allow you to go in. There's a button you click and the robot that you're connected to will change colors so you know which robot it is. You're able to label or rename those robots. And if there's ever an update, which eventually there will be firmware updates, much like your phone or your computer, it's one click and it will update all of the robots. So in this case, I know which robot I want. I'm going to pair to it. It does take a little bit to pair. We'll just give it a minute. And then once it connects, killing me today. I did a training today and everything worked perfectly, but tonight it wants to give me a bit of a hard time. All right, paired, go. There we go, we are connected. So once it's connected, it tells me my battery life. This one, as I mentioned, I already ran it through a training this morning. Can they do half steps? So you want to do 3.5, let's find out. I hit the start and off we go, 1, 2, 3 and a half. And then, oh, I hit the step button probably. Let me try the start button instead, sorry. And there we go. So it went 3.5 steps, turned right 90 degrees, drive forward 1 step. So yes, they also can change it to millimeter because at this point you're getting into students usually grade 1, grade 2, maybe grade 3. So you can code it in millimeters, etc. So this is VEXcode. And as I mentioned, this is the exact same platform that students are going to use with VEXgo, VEXiQ, VEXv5, etc. It is multi-language. So if you wanted to teach in a different language, or if you've got students that work in different languages, maybe English isn't their first language and they just want to do it in that, they can just change languages. So I have taught some VEX classes where they were doing it in French. My French is terrible. So the great thing is if I need to help, I can switch it to English, find out what's wrong, we can fix it, and then they can switch it back. Under File, as we mentioned, you can save to your device. This isn't saving to the robot, this is saving your code so you can work on it later and being able to load your device. There are built-in tutorials. So if you're teaching your students, if you're looking at driving your robot, you can click on Drive Your Robot and a little tutorial opens up. You can make this bit full screen. A lot of the students like to watch it in a smaller scale because they can actually follow along with it. So the idea is that it's very easy to get the students going. Another nice thing about this is there are a bunch of example projects. So for instance, if I wanted to learn how to use sensors, I can come in here and there's one here called Drive Until Crash. So I can simply load that in, set my robot up, and hit the start button. And now the 1, 2, 3 is going to drive till it crashes into something. We've coded it to reverse 1 step and then act crazy. So this is something where the students can understand how it works, and then they can change it. Let's say we're going to act sad because we've just crashed into a wall. We're going to back up 1.5 steps, and we just reset our robot and click the start button. So again, very, very easy to get students started. You will see that there are quite a few commands here. There's also a bunch of control structures. Don't be afraid of it, and don't be afraid of those students that are going to ask, what does this do? What does that do? Because there is a help menu. So for any one of these blocks, if you don't know how it works, you can simply click on it and it will give you a quick tutorial right here on the side explaining what it does. So in this case, drive forward until it sees an object. It uses the front eye sensor. If it detects an object, then it's going to move on to the next code. It shows you that you can do drive forward or drive reverse, etc. And you can drive until there's an object, until it crashes, or until it sees a line. So there are 2 sensors on it. It does have the front sensor, the eye sensor, and it does have, it's hard to see, there it is, the down facing one, which can actually see lines. So it does have 2 built-in sensors. I'm just gonna scroll up and go through the chat quickly. Are there any other peripherals that can be added to this robot? There are not, so it's not designed to have anything plugged into it. That would be something obviously for older grades. All right. So now I am going, are there any questions about VEXcode before I jump out of this, about the actual coding platform?
Dean, there's just one more question, if it can detect color, because I actually don't know the answer to that one.
Let's go to sensors. No, it cannot detect color. So I believe it is just, it's got a gyro, so it knows if it crashes, it can see if there's an object in front of it, and it can see if there's a line underneath it. Can it follow a path created by a line? No. So it's really not designed around, being a line follower robot or anything like that. VEX really wanted to keep it fun. And when you get into the STEM labs, when we look at the lesson plans, I think you'll get a better understanding of what VEX intended for its purpose. The idea isn't to teach robotics. The idea is to enhance the learning you're already doing in a fun way where students are using technology. All right. So I'm just going to jump out of the presentation for a bit because it's not just a puck that drives around. So VEX includes a ring and they call it the art ring. And the idea here is that you can add things to it. So VEX will give you some templates. So you bear with me, this one's getting a little beat up, but we can take some of the VEX templates and we can turn our robot into a dragon. So we can actually use it to tell a story or to have an adventure. And you'll see that the way it's designed, students can still access the keys on the buttons on top to be able to code it. And now they're coding their dragon to be driving around. You can take it one step further. Does anybody do 3D printing at the elementary level? Yeah, I see some hands. So if you really want to have some fun, I wanted to do a 3D dragon. Unfortunately, my wife got involved as well. So this is my ferocious dragon, as you can see. And you can now turn this robot into, if I stop it, a dragon. If we were doing something like Dragon in the Village, now you've got your dragon driving around. And whoops, hit a little hard and got stuck. So there are other things you can do. There's my robot that drives around on top of it. And we were talking about making three-dimensional things. So one of the exercises we're going to look at is called the dragon and the castle. So I 3D printed a castle to put on, and I 3D printed some huts. So rather than using the VEX resources, which are two-dimensional, which there's nothing wrong with using this, where you can have the students color them, cut them out, tape them to the field, etc. If you have access to 3D printing or something like that, it does allow you to really take this into a three-dimensional world with the students. Okay. Bear with me. I just got to jump back into my screen share. And we are now going to dive into the lesson plans. So VEX is my, yep, screen's up. Okay, so VEX calls lesson plans STEM labs. So when I use the word STEM labs, what I'm really talking about are just plug and play lesson plans that VEX has developed. And as you can see, they have lesson plans for all of their product lines. Today, we're going to look at VEX 1, 2, 3. So the first thing you'll notice is there are teacher resources, but we'll get back to that. As you can see, it's broken up into categories. So we have them by level, level 1, level 2, level 3. We also can filter them by subject, and the 4 subjects are coding, literacy, math, and social emotional learning. And they also make 2 different types. They have STEM labs, which are lesson plans, but they also have an activity series. So after you've taught them the lesson, if you want to have some fun, you can pick the corresponding activities where they're having fun using what they've already learned, where you don't have to go through and teach them anything new. I'm just going to check the chat because I just saw it. Can you build a Lego castle on that? Absolutely, yes. What curriculum? Okay. What curriculum is it aligned to and country? Great question. So I'm just going to scroll through so you can see there are a number of different STEM labs here. And then I'm going to dive into the teacher portal. So I might as well start with the first question, curriculum. So content standards, good news and bad news, depending on where you are. You can see, why does it not give me? These are the US standards. So you'll notice that if you are in the US, you'll see all of those. In Canada, unfortunately, we have different standards in each and every province, so they have not mapped it to Canadian standards. But there are the full US standards here, and most teachers don't have too much of a problem being able to map these over. So there is content standards. Oh, did I do where? Did I do that one instead of, there we go. Sorry, I clicked the wrong button. Knew I did. So there are United States, England, and Scotland. I don't know why Scotland got their own and Canada didn't, but for the actual standards. They also have a full getting started guide, introducing VEX 1, 2, 3 to your students, an implementation guide, why use VEX 1, 2, 3 STEM labs, but the main one is this pacing guide. So let's dive into the pacing guide. And what we have here is we have all the lessons based on their lab title, based on what concept we're doing, secondary concepts, and then over here, level and primary coding method. So you're probably going to look at this if you're like me and say, wow, that is a lot of activities. Where do I start? And thankfully we have Sarah, because she's actually chosen the top 6 of these, and we're going to show you how easy it is to get started using those. You'll also notice that a lot of the VEX resources open up in Google Docs. So in this case, you're welcome to make a copy of this, save it, and now you can start editing it, modifying it, sorting it, and making it your own. There is also a one-to-one pacing guide, so this makes it a little easier, and this is what I meant with the activities. Say you've just gone through role play robot with your students, so you've taught them this lesson, and it's Friday, and you just want something fun. You now have 3 activities where you don't have to teach them anything. They already know everything they need to do these exercises, and you can do training your pet, coder monster, corner color, whatever you want, and they already have the skills. They can just have fun doing it. And let me jump back. There is also a STEM lab material list. So this makes sure you have everything you need. So depending on which lesson you're choosing, if you're doing Dragon in the Village, you need the robot, you need the field, you need the art ring, and then you're going to need some paper and markers, some pipe cleaners, etc., because you can decorate your robot. It also gives you links to all of the VEX resources, which includes a lot of PowerPoints, slideshows, etc. And just to show you how these are, we're going to dive into the very first lesson plan, which is Meet Your Robot. So what this is a story that you can share with your students, where the 1, 2, 3 robot is the character and it's talking about itself. So this is the teacher's version. So you will see that it has notes on the side. So the student version would just have the slides. So it's Vector P robot. You can call me Vex. And then you would ask your students, what are some robots that you have heard of? The next slide, what is a robot? The next slide, we talk about how do we power it on? The robot says, I communicate with lights, sounds, and motion. So this is something where you're taking it right out of the box. The students don't have one in front of them, and you're showing it how it works. This is a great slide, probably my favorite, where it explains the difference between our perception as people and what a robot sees. So we might see a nice, delicious apple. The robot sees a red object, which is strange because I thought it didn't see color, but I could be wrong, and a distance of 125 millimeters, how far away it is. And this just goes on and on. So again, the STEM labs are very well done, where it's story-based and you're having fun, working with some literacy as well. So it's not just about robotics and coding. I'm going to take a quick drink of water. Any questions? Any questions at all about the STEM labs? Anything that somebody wants to see any more of? Again, I will open this up to questions at the end, and I'm more than happy to show you anything that you want to see, anything we didn't go into depth with or have discussions about. And yes, the resources are amazing. They are very well done, and they really make it easy to take robotics into the classroom, and especially the fact that they all open up in Google Docs. So this is a Google Doc. So if you want to add notes, if you want to change some of the writing or whatever, you're more than welcome to do that. All right, so I am going to dive back into my presentation. There we go. and we're going to bring it home. So once again, the art ring just snaps on. Here's some examples of what you can do with the art ring. Pipe cleaners seem to be a big thing. You can use some tape, some colored paper. So even if you don't have a 3D printer, you can still build or have your students build some great creations and bring their robot to life, so they're not just driving a puck around the board. This is the dragon in the village that I spoke of. So yes, I 3D printed, but they also give you all the resources. So as you can see, the printouts with the castle, the house, they give you the templates where you just have to cut them out or have the children color them and then cut them out. They fit right into the art ring. And they also give you some blank ones. So if you want, you can just have a blank template and the students can create whatever they want to go on their 1, 2, 3 robot. So now we're going to go through our picks, our iDESIGN picks for the top 6 lessons. And we've chosen 3 STEM labs and 3 activities that we think are a great way to get your students started. Level 1, so it's meet your 1, 2, 3 robot. That's the story that I showed you. So the very first thing is we're going to introduce our students to the robot. We're going to talk about do's and don'ts. Don't throw it against a wall. Don't drive it across a table. It's your new best friend. And then once you've got through that, you can do Dragon in the Village. So Dragon in the Village has 3 different challenges or 3 different tasks. Get the villagers to safety in the castle, gather materials from the village, and even build a dragging pushing machine to push the dragon out of the village. The second one, sorry, I should have mentioned those ones are based around literacy. The second ones we chose were coding ones. So coding, code 1, 2, 3 robot to become Little Red Robot. So a take on Little Red Riding Hood, and it's got to drive to grandmother's house. And then of course the watch out for the wolf is the fun activities where now you bring the whole wolf in and students have to code the robot so that when it sees an object, in this case, the wolf, it's going to, alert some, play some sounds and possibly, avoid it and go around. And then the third one is we chose social immersion. Can't even talk tonight. Social emotional learning. So the lesson itself is called Rowdy Robots, where the robot can have a personality. It can use some color. It can be overly excited, etc. And then part 2 of that is create a calm down code. So, much like we talk with our students or adults like myself, sometimes we just need to take a deep breath, count to 5. We can do that with our robot. And we're also teaching students a great strategy to be able to calm down. So as I mentioned, there are a lot of resources. I just showed you the tip of the iceberg. It's all located on the VEX Robotics website. So there's the 1, 2, 3 guide to get started. There's the Meet Your Robot PDF. There are all sorts of different slideshows that go with all the different STEM labs, the pacing guides, the content standards, and the lab material lists. So now I am going to open it up to questions and answers, and I'm going to start with the chat. All right, let me scroll up. This is a fantastic group we have today. Are there patterns for the 3D prints? Yes. Some of these I got some VEX, some I developed on my own, and I did put them all in a Google Drive for Sarah. So she is more than happy to share all of that with you. Yes, and yes, most of the things I did find off Thingiverse. The only thing I actually had to design were these little round discs so that it sits right on top of the robot. And again, we do have the files for those. Can you program the robot to make other sounds? No, you have to, when you get to other robots, we do have the ability, like with the VEXiQ, where you can actually program notes. So you actually can have the VEXiQ robots drive around playing an actual song. But with the 1, 2, 3, it's just the pre-programmed sounds, behaviors, etc. Can you program the robot? Yeah, it is really important to be able to give this robot a bit of personality, because let's be honest, this robot really doesn't have much in the way of personality right out of the box. But the one thing it is durable. It's really built well. You can see the wheels stick out a very little amount, so they're not going to get broken or damaged. It is designed to be robust. And then the idea with the art ring is that you can attach whatever you want to it, tape to it, and stick things in, and it just snaps on. So that gives you the ability to be able to give your robot some personality. Have I experienced a great deal of connectivity issues when you have multiple robots running? Not at all. So we do have quite a few of these bundles out. We've got school boards that ordered these for all of their elementary schools. They're having great success. Apparently the only robot that has connectivity issues is the beta one that they sent me. We get a lot of great feedback from schools that they're not having any issues and they're having a ton of fun. VEX is very experienced with multiple robots. So just to give you a bit of history, VEX started out as a competitive robotics company with the VEX Robotics Challenge. So there is a high school program called the VEX Robotics Challenge where 10,000 teams from 60 countries compete, and they're all competing at events at the same time. So I was at the Ontario Provincials over the weekend where you've got multiple robots running in the room doing different challenges. And obviously you can't have any interference when it's a competition. So VEX has got the connectivity ironed out and working perfect. Sturdiness, absolutely. I feel the same way. I mean, I'm so excited about this product. I have lots of fun with it. My wife's played with it, and the students seem to really love it. Can you put more than one on the field at once? Absolutely. I actually had a school, and unfortunately they didn't get a video of it, but what they did with the kindergarten classes, they built parade floats. And then they actually had a parade where they lined them all up, they coded them, and they hit go, and it did a little VEX 1, 2, 3 parade.